Actually, we are discussing the procedure to be followed for conducting marketing research. So, after completing this, then we will start block 3 for, we will take block 3 for discussion. So, Mr. Rao, you mentioned that there are totally 5 steps to be followed while conducting marketing research. They are problem definition, research design, field work, data analysis and report presentation and implementation. We already discussed the first 2 steps. Will you please explain the remaining 3 briefly?
Okay, let me go on to the third straight away. We are talking about the field work. As we talked in the previous session, many a times you don't get the right kind of results because you're like he mentioned about the non-sampling errors and things like this, you don't get them. So, one of the things you need to be very careful is the kind of field work that is involved for the research. Now, field work would basically pertain to the actual data collection, but prior to this there are 2 other things which we need to know. In terms of data collection, we need to have a good plan and we also need to have a good supervision of the research system. Now, what actually a plan would mean would be something like, what kind of man days are required to conduct the research, how many people are going to be there, how do you reach the final respondent and so on and so forth. So, this is what is going to be a part of the field work. Now, if you plan these things properly and while conducting the research, while conducting the questionnaires, you need to have, or if you have the right kind of supervision to see that the collection of the data is as per the plan, the sample that you thought you are going to select is actually the kind of sample that you have selected, the number of people in that particular sample, so that the sample is representative, are the kind of number of people who actually are going to be researched or are actually going to be talked into. Now, very briefly, this is what would be the field work. Since we are short of time, I will run through the balance also. Now, the other thing we have is the data analysis. Now, basically once you have the data, you need to put it in some kind of an order, right. The order will possibly give us the idea of the trends which are going to appear from that particular data. That means we are talking about data getting converted into information, information getting converted into the knowledge. And for this you need to use a lot of statistical methods. It could be a correlation exercise, it could be a regression analysis and so on and so forth. The whole idea of this is to put the data into a meaningful format, so that you can infer from that and conclude about certain kind of results. And at the end of it, you have the presentation of this data in a meaningful form. Now, to give the picture of what you have been able to gather as research information from such an exercise, you need to start right from the beginning. You need to very clearly define what has been the kind of objective, what was the basis on which the sample was selected, what was the basis for the kind of instruments that you have chosen, and you very succinctly mention what are basically the conclusions and inferences which have been drawn. So, a report basically tells you not only about the conclusions, it also tells you about what has been the kind of conditions under which the research was conducted, because if those conditions are not accurate, then your result findings are also not going to be accurate. So, that is a kind of relationship. So, report presentation and implementation of whatever is the conclusion results is the last part of this procedure that we talked about marketing research. Yes.
Yeah, Professor Venkaya, as far as the Indian organizations are concerned, to what extent actually they are using these marketing research techniques?
Well, earlier perhaps they have not made use of marketing research to the fullest extent possible. Even today, if we compare Indian companies using marketing research compared to the multinational companies and American companies, perhaps the percentage of budget earmarked for marketing research is certainly insignificant. But again, it depends on the companies. It depends on the companies. To mention that the marketing costs in an American company is much higher than any Indian company. It is because of the different kinds of situations obtaining in the markets. There in the US, for example, the competition is severe, and there are multinational companies warring in the domestic market first and also across the nations. Whereas, such kind of environment though is there, it is not that intense in the case of Indian marketing environment. Coming to the question proper, that marketing research is definitely put to use by most of the companies today in the Indian context. And this marketing research is conducted by the companies themselves. Sometimes they are also commissioning the projects and assigning the task to some specialists in marketing research like IMRB, Indian Marketing Research Bureau, and ORG, Operations Research Group, which is doing syndicate research for a group of companies, and particularly on market share analysis and supplying the information on shared cost basis. And all the companies share, particularly in the consumer softs and consumer durables line, ORG does a good deal of research. And for example, Hindustan Lever, Reliance, Colgate Palmolive, and then even the banking sector, ICICI, IDBI kind of companies, they are doing a lot of research, and there is constant information inflow for the decision making purpose. And hence I would say in the past it was not that significant, but of late Indian marketers learnt certainly that marketing research is very valuable for accurate decision making and marketing results. They are making use of marketing research as a tool essentially for decision making in the first instance, and subsequently to obtain feedback and to amend marketing strategy if necessary, depending on the marketing environment and the changes taking place in the environment.
The mindsets are changing in terms of using
particularly
research.
For consumer behavior, for advertising research and impact and study of effectiveness of advertising, and to know the brand preferences and brand equity of a company's brand vis-a-vis the competitive brands. Marketing research is immensely used for product, for promotion purpose, even to know the impact of pricing and the different price strategies, etc.
Just you has just given us a lead also to the next block which we are going to discuss, that is
That's
consumer behavior. So marketing research will help an organization to understand which type of product a consumer will prefer, why he may prefer that particular product, when he is going to buy that particular product. That is, analysis of consumer behavior is essential for running any organization successfully, effectively and efficiently. So will you please explain the basic concept of this consumer behavior, Professor Venkaya?
The consumer behavior is very, very important for marketing any product or service. It is said the word behavior is a term to be understood very clearly by the marketers. The very word behavior gives the connotation of the complexity, that human mind is a black box. Nobody knows what takes place in the decision making process, why a particular person behaves in a way he behaves, and why consumer X behaves differently from consumer Y. All these questions are addressed in consumer behavior. In other words, consumer behavior is a study of what do people buy, why do they buy, where do they buy, when are they buying, how they buy, and how frequently they buy. The answers to all these interrogatives is the consumer behavior. Maybe I would like to give the definition of consumer behavior. The consumer behavior may be defined as those acts of individuals, that is consumers, directly involved in obtaining, using and disposing of economic goods and services, including the decision processes that precede and determine that acts. In this definition, there are some elements which we may recognize. Number one is there are individual acts. Acts of individuals are the basis, and such acts are directly related to the behavior of individuals, and this behavior is in respect of obtaining, using and disposing of economic goods and services. So, the goods and services obtaining, using and disposal, and another important thing is the behavior before and at the time of determination of the product purchase. This precede all these processes, decision processes precede and determine the acts, and hence consumer behavior refers to the acts of individuals as to why they buy a particular brand in preference to another brand, a competitive brand. And a study of consumer behavior becomes relevant because of the complexity of the behavioral aspects of the individual consumers. For example, in the same family, if we take two sisters, one of them uses Dove soap, another uses Liril soap, and their preference is for Head and Shoulder shampoo by the first sister, and the second sister may make use of Halo shampoo. Consumer behavior study is important to know why. I was giving an example of two sisters, one preferring Dove soap, another Liril, one preferring Head and Shoulder shampoo, another Halo shampoo, and the reasons could be many. It could be their own values, their personality traits, their self-image, and their own attitude towards life, and so on. All these aspects have to be analyzed by the marketer to know why elder sister behaves differently from younger sister. A study of the behavior of purchase of a brand or a product by an individual is called consumer behavior.
Actually, what is the necessity of analyzing the consumer behavior, Professor Venkaya?
Necessity is, as we said, marketing strategy is designed to satisfy the needs and wants of the customers, and to identify the needs and also the preferences, the expectations, the attitudes, beliefs and values, or the culture and subculture of the individuals purchasing the brand or product must be taken into account. We have to know why our customers buy a particular brand and why they prefer brand A to brand B. This study is essential, and the study of their attitudes, beliefs, customs, conventions help the marketers to design a suitable product to meet the consumer needs, to satisfy the consumer needs. Would you like to add and also to know the feedback as to how consumers are feeling about our products.
Would you like to add anything, Mr. Rao?
Basically, as he has already said, let me add, once you know why a particular consumer behaves in a particular manner, why he chooses one product over the other product. Now, what you are able to do is you are able to decide on the kind of stimuli which is required to motivate the person to take certain kind of actions, and that too in favor of your product. So, basically it will help you in designing the right kind of marketing mix, which would include, as you said, price, product, your promotion strategy and things like this. Basically it would help you in giving the right kind of stimulus, so that the purchase action is taken by the target customer.
So, Mr. Rao, the behavior of the consumers may be influenced by various factors. Suppose I am purchasing a particular product, means because of my personal reasons, or because of the influence of my family members, or because of the influence of my friends. There may be so many reasons. So, what are the factors that may influence the buyer behavior? Will you please enlighten us?
Yeah, just to expand that, basically the kind of decisions which are taken by the black box, as Professor Venkaya said, which is there in the mind of a customer. Why one buys a TV during Diwali and another person buys during Christmas, for example. Why when you have to buy a TV you go to this particular shop and not the other particular shop, which may be only 3 shops away, right, from where you are going to buy, when you are going to buy, and so on and so forth. There are a whole lot of factors which actually influence this kind of a behavior of the customer, and some of them are in fact they can be categorized into 4 of these factors. First is the cultural factor, right? Second is the social factor, third is personal factors, and last is the psychological factors. Now, all the factors which are influencing the consumer behavior, they are actually categorized in one of these four categories.
So, cultural, social, personal and psychological factors, they will influence the buyer behavior.
Very right.
So, Professor Venkaya, will you please throw some light on the cultural factors?
Yeah, the cultural factors could be again divided into three categories. Number one is the culture basically, and the subculture which is a part of culture, and social class. Now, maybe it helps us to define what culture is. Culture is a total sum of values, beliefs, attitudes, practices of individuals, and culture determines the lifestyle, culture determines the personality, culture determines the outlook of a person towards a particular aspect, towards a particular product in the marketing context. Now, the culture is an outcome of the learning from the environment. The environment could be the very family and the neighborhood and also the peers and so on. This learning takes place. Because of the learning, a personality is shaped. A personality has got certain given traits, and all the personality, self concept, self image, and also the personality traits, the values that one imbibes, the activities one engages himself herself, depends on the culture from which he comes from or to which he belongs to. The subculture is within culture. For example, the subculture is another, subculture refers to the similarity of a subgroup within the cultural group. For example, you take a religion, a religious subculture is there, and then a rural area, for example, the culture is different from the urban areas. This kind of subculture here refers to again the similarity of the needs and wants of the subclass of a cultural group. North India and South India, the culture of South India Indians is different. The food habits of South Indians is different from the food habits of North Indians, and similarly different countries across
Even
the
in South India also, each state will have their own food habits.
yes, there is
cultures.
there is difference, yes. And also the last one is social class. Social class, every society is made up of different social classes. The different social groups are known as social classes, and this social class is determined by the social background, the economic background, and also the affordability in terms of economic standing. Here normally the social class shares the values. There are shared values within a social class. Such a kind of shared values across the social classes may not be seen, and hence the wants and needs of each social class will be different. In India, we could broadly divide the social classes into three as upper class, middle class and lower class. The needs of upper class are different from the middle class, and the needs of middle class and upper class are different from the needs of the lower class. And here it is obvious that this is essentially a division based on the economic conditions, income levels, and also the social status. So, economic standing or the income levels and the social status determine the social class, and each social class will have shared values, shared opinions, and such the study of the shared values and beliefs of each social class becomes necessary for the marketer, so that he can address the products directly to companies' products or brands directly to the particular social class.
Yeah. So, Mr. Rao, will you please explain the second category of the factors that may influence, that is the social factors? Is it different from the social class, actually what Professor Venkaya explained so far?
Yeah, it is different in terms of its treatment. When we are talking about social factors, essentially we recognize the fact that a man is a social animal and he lives in a society where there are a lot of influences on him from various quarters, right. This influence could come basically from the family, right, in which he was born, or it could possibly, he could possibly be influenced by the family of his wife after the marriage, even that is possible. Now, basically there would be certain kind of reference groups with which he will associate himself, right. There are going to be primary reference groups. These are basically people with whom he interacts on a regular basis, and or it could be a secondary reference group. These are people with whom he has contacts, but much less frequently, right. Now, if he is a part of such groups, he is likely to be influenced by what is the majority thinking in that particular group. Now, it could be a formal group, it could be a informal group. A formal group could be that he is influenced by what is happening to the people, to his colleagues in the office. So, that is a formal kind of a group. The informal group could be once in a while, maybe in a month or month and a half, he has a get together with the neighbors. It is a very, very informal kind of a group. So, essentially there are classes in the society with which he has a regular interaction, and these classes basically influence his decision making. Just to give you an example, a celebrity, for example, right, like Sachin Tendulkar or Amitabh Bachchan or Amir Khan, like Sachin Tendulkar comes for the Britannia advertisements, right, communication of Britannia biscuits. Amir Khan comes from Coca-Cola, and so on and so forth. Now, what happens is, I somehow have this affinity towards this particular person because of certain reasons, right. They could be reasons which are rational, they could be reasons which are irrational also, but just the way I feel that, okay, if this person is doing something and if I aspire to be one like that, I would also like to do whatever he does. So, if he drinks Coca-Cola, I also start drinking Coca-Cola. So, that is the kind of influence that we are talking about. The other kind of social influence could be that a man basically performs the role of quite a few persons in his daily life. When I go to the office, I am an executive. When I am at home, I am perhaps a father, I am perhaps a husband, and I am perhaps the son of my parents, right. Now, I need to basically respond to the relationship with these kind of people in different way. The kind of dress I would choose to wear for the office would be very, very different kind than the kind of dress I choose to wear at my residence, right. The kind of facilities I may like to have in my office, an air conditioner and staff car, driver, etc., may be very, very different than what I would require when I am at home. No air conditioner perhaps, no driver in the evening for me, right. So, now what happens is, why you go for certain things or not go for certain things would be influenced by these kind of relationships. Then certain kind of products I would like to go just to show my status in the organization. If I am the managing director of a particular company, right, I may have to have a very large kind of a car, even though I am actually traveling all the time alone, right. But if it is a marketing executive in the same organization, he will possibly drive a Maruti 800, right. So, there are going to be certain kind of decisions, purchase decisions, which are going to be based on these kind of social influences. They will be based on the kind of social pulls and pushes which are always exerted on the people. So, this exactly I would mention, these are the social factors which make a particular consumer behave in a particular manner.
Yeah, we can see even many families, they may purchase certain products, whether they are essential or not, because the neighbors have having the particular product, we too should have, just as a social symbol or social status.
So, it is a peer group pressure which through which you go. So, you identify yourself in that kind of a reference group. So, if the norm of that reference group is something, you also like to adhere to that kind of a norm.
So, Professor Venkaya, what are the personal factors that may influence the behavior of the buyers? That is the third category of the factors.
Okay. In fact, personal factors, as the very term reflects, it's purely personal, not related to any external environment or external marketing stimuli, whatever. And the first in the personal factors is age, life cycle stage. Age and life cycle stage. Age and life cycle stage. What is this? Now, for marketers' benefit, we have an example where the life cycle is divided into bachelor, young married couple, full nest 1, full nest 2, full nest 3, empty nest 1, empty nest 2 and solitary survivor. Maybe it is desirable that we explain these concepts.
Yeah, briefly.
The number 1 is bachelor, because depending on the age and life cycle, the needs of the persons will be determined. Here, when one is a bachelor and he is paid lucratively by a company, let us say 25,000 a month, a bachelor, no responsibilities. He has discretionary income which is huge, which is very considerable. His needs are entertainment, recreation, holidaying, leisure time, friends, going to the club, etc. Okay. Then the needs are different, and once a person, the same person gets married, newly married couple, their requirements are also different in terms of making a home, building a home, acquiring things. For example, the kitchen appliances, the dresses interior decoration, and then home needs, etc. And that is what is called young newly married couple. The needs are different. The full nest 1 is youngest child less than 6 years old. Youngest child less than 6 years old is full nest 1, where the needs for children, for their education, for their educational materials, for their own enjoyment, for children needs, that is the emphasis at that stage. And then full nest 2 is over 6 years, youngest child over 6 years. And again, needs are different depending on, see, the school going and college going children in the house, the meeting the college fee, school fee, and then educational expenditure, besides other things.
As the children are growing,
needs are different. And then full nest 3 is dependent children. They are grown, but they are dependent, and the needs of all the members are immensely high. And then empty nest 1 is all children settled, and then only married couple remain, older couple. Their needs are different again. Support, social support they want, and children away working. In most of the Indian families, we see that children are settled in the US, and then wife and husband living here, that kind of a situation. And empty nest 2 is no children at home, still head is working. Empty nest 3 is retiring. Once the head of the family retires, both wife and husband become old, their needs are diverse, they need social security, they need safety, they need Medicaid and some support of that kind.
They want some moral
and
support also.
hence medical insurance, for example, their own safety, belongingness they want, that kind of needs. And solitary survivor is only one remained and one already died.
Right.
And the solitary survivor stage, again the needs are different, dependence is more for the person who survives. This kind of life cycle and then age, they determine the needs. Occupation, Narsingh Rao has already informed us, as a managing director, as a middle level executive, as a lower
employee working in the organization.
bottom level employee of the organization. How? Occupation requires, for example, a blue collar worker needs altogether different needs compared to the chief executive of a company. A chief executive may need a luxury line car, an expensive suit, and an air conditioned office, and also sometimes home where he can afford, and that kind of occupation related needs. And income, income, purchasing power, attitude towards individuals, attitude towards spending vis-a-vis the saving, and discretionary take home pay, discretionary income for spending, all these are covered under the income. And then lifestyle is a reflection of the personality. Personality traits are built based on the environment and learning from the environment, and the lifestyle determines the kind of products they need, and hence study of lifestyle is also necessary for the marketer to understand the consumer's behavior. And lastly, personality and self control, self concept. In fact, this personality is a sequel, an outcome of all the other factors given here, plus the sociological environment, the psychological parameters like motivation, perception, etc., that determine. Personality traits also determine the preference to a particular product, and personality determines the type of needs, and hence the study of personality of the individuals who are our customers is also important. This is how these are the personal factors that determine the consumer behavior.
Yeah. Mr. Rao, what about the last category, that is the psychological factors?
Yeah. See, what we have covered so far is social, cultural and personal factors. The question arises, yes, based on income people are going to react in a particular manner to a marketing stimuli, but will everyone who earns 10,000 rupees per month plus salary is going to behave in the same manner, right? Whether everyone who is in a different kind of life cycle, like for example nest 1, irrespective of what the other factors are, if they are in nest 1 and there is some other family which is also in the nest 1, are they going to react in the same manner to a marketing stimuli? Now, unfortunately, the finding is that not everyone is going to react in the same manner. And what are the reasons? The reasons have been basically mentioned as the psychological factors, and that is why we are looking at it. Basically, consumer may need something, right? And how strongly he needs something is going to basically propel him towards a particular action, which is what we are going to call motivation, right? Now, this motivation may depend on number of things. In fact, one of the models which is very prominently and prevalently used in this particular case is called the Maslow's model of hierarchical
need hierarchy,
right, where it says that a man goes through different stages in his life, right? First, he is basically controlled and influenced by the physiological needs, then he is concerned about the safety needs, then he is talking about the social needs where he requires love among the kind of people he operates, right, friendship and things like this. Thereafter, he is possibly more geared and more influenced by his ego needs, right, like esteem needs, right. And at the end of it, once many of these things are to a large extent satisfied, many of these needs are gratified to some extent, he goes to the level of something which is called self-actualization. That's right. Now, what Maslow says that you basically move predominantly from one level to the other level after most of the needs in that particular level are going to be fulfilled, right. Now, let me give you an example. Someone who is a worker, right, a farm worker, perhaps where 5 of his family members are also going to be involved in working in the farm. The household income could be almost similar to someone who is a well-placed marketing executive, but he is the sole bread earner, right. There, the number of hands are making up for the kind of household income that they have. Here, it's one person who is. The education levels are different, the exposures are different, and they are going to react in a totally different kind of form. That is why we see lot of huts these days with television antenna or the internet or the network cable connections, whereas some of the people who are well placed, earned, educated, they still do not have that kind of a thing, because they have possibly not come to a stage of gratifying those kind of needs. So, one is where one factor is where you are with respect to the kind of motivation you have, whether you are at the physiological level or safety level or your social level or esteem level or so on and so forth. The other thing is the perception, same kind of marketing stimuli can basically be perceived in a different manner by two different set of people, right. A lightweight vehicle to one could mean fuel efficiency, whereas to someone else it may mean that it is accident prone. Yeah. It may mean that if I meet an accident in a light weight vehicle, the damage to me is going to be far more than what it is the other case. A red color of a vehicle, right, to someone may mean exuberance, brightness, right, and to someone else it may mean arrogance, right. Now, how do you perceive a marketing stimuli? Because the marketing stimuli is same, but stimulus is same, but you react to that in a different manner, because these are the perception. Now, perception is all about how we see the world around us, right. Now, a lot would depend on, and many of these things are basically not very rational to explain. It is not very rational to explain. So, that is the second psychological factor. The third psychological factor could be the learning that we have gone through right from our childhood. I mean, looking at things. Now, if my father has used a Bajaj scooter for a very long time and he has been very happy with the kind of experience that he had with the product, I am more likely to consider a Bajaj motorbike when I am possibly of that age when I am acquiring a Bajaj motorbike. Now, motorbike and scooter, there are two different product categories. There are two different products in the same category, right. But I may like to do that, and Bajaj may not be as good as, say, for example, Hero Honda in terms of offering a particular motorbike, right, in terms of the benefits. Yeah. But my learning is what? My learning is Bajaj is good in terms of scooter, which is a two-wheeler, so it has to be good in terms of another two-wheeler, which is a motorbike. Now, this is what is a learned kind of a response. Now, many of the things that we act on, many of the decisions that we take are based on the learning process which we have gone through over a period of time. Then last of the psychological factors are the beliefs and attitudes, right. Now, what happens is because of our upbringing, because of our own dealings with our elders, because of our own dealings with the peer group and so on and so forth, we develop some kind of attitudes and we take decisions on the basis of these kind of attitudes, right. One attitude could be that anyone who has a huge car, right, is a very, very successful man, right, or someone who will possibly get off a very nice large car, and if he is wearing a good dress, we assume him to be the owner of that vehicle, but if he is not in such good clothes, we assume immediately that he is a driver. Now, how this happens? This happens because of the belief system, because of the attitudes we have developed over a period of time. Now, why we take certain decisions, why we choose certain kind of actions when the same kind of marketing stimulus is given to us is dependent on these kind of attitudes, right. One attitude could be that if my child is exposed to the television for long hours, right, his eyes are going to be spoiled. In fact, there are very, very recent reports, researches which have been conducted, which says it is actually not true, right. Or there is a belief that if my child is going to watch the TV for a very long time, there is going to be a lot of unnecessary influences on him, which is also not right, because we know of people who have been doing that and gone to the best of the places for education, and they have come up very well in life. But these are the beliefs that we acquire over a period of time. This is the kind of attitudes which we build over a period of time, and these definitely influence the kind of decisions that we take.
From what you from what both of you explained, Professor Baike, I think there is some relationship between the personal factors and the psychological factors.
Yes.
Yeah, will you please explain this?
Personal and psychological. You see, personal factors are personal to one, and psychology of an individual is also related to one, and it is self concept or self image, what one is, the ego, self ego, and the individual's preferences towards a particular brand in the context of marketing depends on the psychological factors like what is your urge, what is your need, how different stimuli worked on the psychology of an individual. It is like, for example, there is a tendency, people say that our neighbors acquire a particular brand of car. The tendency is we also prefer to acquire the same kind of car, because if that is a status symbol in the same neighborhood, there is a tendency that they want to buy. In that case, here the emulation or imitating the neighbor's decision of purchasing a particular brand of car or a luxury line car, if it is a different brand, depends on the psychology of an individual. Some are influenced by the psychology that owning a luxury line car, a good branded car gives us social status, and that is the psychology aspect, and again it relates to personal factor. For example, one really wants to buy a luxury line car but doesn't afford, he can't have, he doesn't have the money to buy it, then personal factor relegates the decision, because though psychologically they want to buy a particular car, they will not be able to buy because personal factors, that is income, will not be permitting them to do so. That is how it is related. See, what is affordable in terms of the budget provision of an individual, and what is desirable from the cognitive domain and its influence on the purchase process. I think this is the interrelationship between the personal factors
and also psychological.
Yeah, and psychological. They are intertwined.
Yeah.
They are very strongly correlated, or they have an established relationship between the two.
Yeah, Mr. Rao, you are consultant for some organizations. So, how the organizations actually they are analyzing the behavior of the consumers?
Now again we need to go back in terms of what is the kind of business that the company is in, right? Now what is the kind of product that you are talking about, and where exactly you want to position that particular product into the market. Would you like to present it as a prestige item? Would you like to present it as a value for money item? Not deliberately calling it an inexpensive item, I am saying value for money, right. Now depending on where you want to position this particular product, right, you need to look at the the so called the prospective consumers, and look at the kind of behavior they exhibit. Now you have from history, right, you have from your experience certain kind of people acting in a certain kind of manner for certain kind of products, certain kind of marketing stimulus. Now basically you are going to keep that in the background and basically adapt your marketing communication, right, your pricing, right, the kind of distribution through which it has to go. If I am looking at a prestige product, I would possibly put it in the places which are the best in terms of demonstrating that particular product, right. I would possibly put it in a place like Shoppers Stop in Hyderabad rather than a smaller departmental shop or so, because I am looking at the kind of people who can buy that particular equipment are, say, high income group, male, right, perhaps well over the middle management level in the organization, perhaps who takes once or twice holidays either in the best places in India or outside, right. So if I am able to basically explain and define my target customer, then I am looking at the kind of marketing program which is going to be intended for that particular person. So I think briefly that is how you would use this kind of information. Yes.
Professor Venkaya, nowadays the organizations are using so many sales promotion techniques, like if you buy 2, 1 is free, or nowadays most of the organizations are going for the scratch card business. So, how actually these sales promotion techniques may influence the behavior of a buyer?
Maybe in the first instance I would like to define what sales promotion is. Sales promotion refers to any short term measure used by a company to promote the sales of a particular product or brand. Now, temporary measure, maybe that we define promotion mix and the 4 elements. Promotion mix is advertising, personal selling, sales promotion and publicity. While there are given definitions for advertising, personal selling and publicity, we do not have a very clear definition for sales promotion. It is an umbrella kind of approach. It is whatever a marketer does to promote the sales of a product other than advertising, personal selling and publicity is called sales promotion. And one characteristic feature of sales promotion is that it is a short term measure, essentially to promote the sales and to clear the inventory and to competitively outweigh the competitive brand. In this process, what happens, the sales promotion has become an important tool. Always there is a complementary product given as a free product. Now, you can cite, for example, if you go to any supermarket and buy any 5 consumer softs, you find at least 3 have got a tied up product. One example I can give is, for example, the Palmolive shave cream carries Colgate Palmolive, Colgate gel toothpaste. Both the products are the same companies. The only thing is, when there is competition for Palmolive shave cream, they offer this as a product, complementary product, and advertise to a great deal and then attract the customers, and within the same price you give almost 30% of value of other product added on, add-on products. And this sales promotion is nothing but working on the psychology of the individual by giving 2 products for 1. Not only that, you take for example the Vivaldi shirts. If you buy 1 shirt, 1 is free. Even other companies, for example Zodiac, if you buy 2 shirts, 1 is free. If you buy 2 trousers, 1 is free. Like that, what is called, it is working on the psychology and using as a strategy to lure the customers, to attract them, to bring them to the fold. Another thing is to sell more and more, to sell more and more. This is what is happening. In the competitive marketing strategy, it is a kind of a retaliation and changing the strategy from time to time to cope with the market situation.
So, almost encashing the psychology of the
Individuals.
individuals.
Please allow me to add a
Yeah,
couple
please.
of things. You see, what happens is because of all these factors that we have talked about in terms of consumer behavior, right, there can be 2 products, like it could be a Sony television, for example, it could be a Sharp television, which are meeting most of my requirements in terms of the status statement that it is going to make, in terms of the social influences that I had, right. So, if I have a choice between the 2 which is triggered by the sales promotion that you have talked about, I may actually take a decision in favor of Sony, not on Sharp, because of this, right. But if I am going to buy, for example, let us take the example of an air conditioner, right. Such choices may be available between Carrier air conditioner and a Hitachi air conditioner, but just because there is a sales promotion scheme going on a cooler, I am not going to buy the cooler, right.
Yeah.
So, the difference could be, if I want ice cream, I will go for ice cream. Just because Britannia, you have a scheme that World Cup you have Britannia biscuit and you go for the World Cup free or something like that. I am not going to do that. So, sales promotion is only in such a case is influencing a decision between 2 products which are meeting most of my needs. So,
what we addressed is sales promotion to benefit the consumers. There are also dealer sales promotions where the dealers are given huge cash discounts, huge quantity discounts, huge turnover discounts. where the dealers will compete to sell more and more of the same brand. You take Asian Paints today, every dealer competes with the other and parts with a small margin of what margin they get, and only to get more and more sales, because adhering to a given target volume of sales gives them lot of benefits, and turnover incentive is there, cash discount is there, and quantity discounts are there, that is trade discounts, etc. This kind of what is called sales promotion is twofold. One is for dealer promotion, another is for consumer promotion. Yes.
So, Mr. Rao, I think there are so many models through which one can analyze the behavior of consumers. Will you please explain any one of these models briefly?
Yeah. The different models that we have for the buyer behavior, I am just trying to go through this list very briefly. The popular ones which are there are Howard Shate model. The second is Angel Collette Blackwell model. These two models are essentially dealing with the buyer behavior of the individuals, right. The third model of family decision making, as the name itself suggests, is about the whole family making a decision for a purchase which is meant for the family. Right. And the last is the model of industrial buyer behavior, right. Now, this is applicable for the kind of decisions which is made in larger organization, where a user could be on the shop floor, where the engineer possibly draws the specifications and purchaser would like to make the best out of the bargain that is available. So, there are different kind of people who are involved in this kind of an activity. There the purchase behavior is little different. Now, what we could do is, because of the shortage of time, we could possibly look at the Howard Shate model. I have a chart, I do not know whether it will come very clearly, let me just try. This is how the model looks. Please. Now, basically Howard Shate model, as I said, is something which is basically explaining the purchase behavior, the buyer behavior of an individual. Right. Now, there are 4 stages to this. One is the input stage, the second is the perception or the learning constructs, third is the output stage, and fourth are some of the external variables which we are going to talk about it. Now, what are the inputs when I am going to buy a particular product? The input could be the communication which is being made by the company, right, in terms of what the product is, what the price is, what are the benefits that the product is giving to you, and what is the kind of delivery, where is it available, and so on and so forth. Now, there is another input which is possible to this. When you go to the showroom, there are people who are selling, or even if you do not go to the showroom, there are people who visit you and tell you more about their particular product and what it does, what are the benefits and things like this. Now, this is the second source of input. Now, both of these are basically within the control of the marketer, right. But there is a third kind of input which is going on at the same time, and that is the input which comes from the social background that you have, social interactions that you have, which is perhaps getting originated from the family within which you are a part, the reference group of which you are a part, or you ascribe to be a part of that kind of a reference group. So, that is the other information. And there is another kind of a thing which is basically a symbolic kind of a perception, right. I look at a particular product, the seller says that it is going to last you for next 15 years, right. But by looking at that particular product, I get a feeling that it may not last for 15 years, perhaps it will last only for 5 years, right. Now, these are the different kind of inputs which are coming in when you are looking at the purchase. Now, in spite of the fact that you are trying to find as much information as possible about these kind of products, there is a possibility that everything that the company is basically telling about the particular product, you are not exposed to that, you are not exposed to everything. And even in the case where you are exposed to everything, the intended message is not the message which I have basically taken in. So, that is the kind of perceptive construct which we are talking about. The third stage, other part of this second stage is basically the learning constructs, which is basically shaped by our own experiences of the past and how it has either given more confidence to me about that particular product or about that particular company which is manufacturing that particular product, or the lack of confidence which has been generated because of certain kind of things which have happened. For example, if I have a prestige cooker and while my wife was away and it was on the a burner, it burst, the stop valve actually flew off or something like this. Now, that is the kind of learning which I have acquired in the past, which I am going to put to use when I am talking about the new purchase decision that I am going to make. Now, based on this, I am going to take certain kind of decisions which is going to determine the kind of output which will be there of such a process. Right. Now, the
thank you, Professor. I am afraid the time is over. So, thank you very much, Professor Venkaya and Mr. Rao, to be with us today and for enlightening our students regarding various aspects relating to market segmentation, marketing research, and also consumer behavior, its importance, how to analyze the consumer behavior. Thank you.